this YouTube video, I'm going to be talking about, is there a difference between spirituality and religion? We're going to be talking about some of the difference because oftentimes, religion gets confused to be more spiritual. We're going to be talking about the distinct difference between both. I'm going to be sharing my personal experience, why I took a step back from religion, and not making this video to suggest that one is more superior than the other. We all have our personal beliefs and we all need something, that gives us faith and trust. This video is not, created on the premise that one is more superior than the other and that you should, change your beliefs or shift from one thing to the other. I know that this is a very controversial topic, and I can tell that it triggers a lot of people and it can trigger a lot of people. I'm not creating this video to suggest that one is better than the other or one is more superior than the other or you should side with one over the other. I'm just creating this video to speak about how being in both, being religious growing up and being more spiritual, I've noticed that it's very different. Spirituality and religion are very, very different. So if you're new to my channel, my name is Raksha. I create a lot of videos around spirituality / self-development, and if you're somebody who likes those types of videos, then you can subscribe to my YouTube channel. I know for myself, I have been somebody who grew up in a household that was a little bit religious. I'm an Indian, so the religion that was like practiced in the household that I grew up in was oftentimes Hinduism, and so I grew up being exposed to that culture, to that religion, and I was never somebody that was very religious. Personally, I've not been somebody who was very religious growing up. But I had a lot of respect for the culture. I saw how much my parents were respecting the culture, respecting the religions, the customs, the tradition. And so for me, it was like, oh, okay, I've seen that my parents are respecting, the religion. I also should have respect for the religion. And, so for me, it wasn't like I was too religious or anything like that growing up. Um, and when I started to kind of get older, this was around being 17, 18 years old, I started to really question a lot of the things pertaining to religion. I started to question it, and I think that this is when things started to really unfold for me. Questioning things can make other people very uncomfortable. It's also very uncomfortable to start questioning this thing that you've been told about your entire 18 years, 19 years, born and brought up in this culture and this religion. Now I started to get older and I started to really question a lot about the customs that I was seeing that my parents were practicing, and all of the religious beliefs. I really started to ask myself, like, where is this coming from, and should I inherit this? Should I be doing these things? Does it make sense? Like, morally, does it make sense to be doing these things? So for me, when I started questioning it, I was around 18, 19 years old. And the reason I started to question it a lot is because I went into college, and a lot of my friends, like my best friends, they were Christian, they were, Muslim. I live in South Africa, so there's a whole diversity of religion and races. And so I was becoming more exposed to those types of experiences where one of my friends were, she was more Christian, so she would kind of invite me to come to her church. And then I had one of my best friends also, she was Islamic, and I loved her culture so much, and she was exposing me to a little bit of Islamic culture, a little bit of Arabic culture. I loved it. I really enjoyed it. The problem was that it felt like my religion was sort of holding me back. It wasn't so much like religion, it was more like the customs that my family held on to, that kind of like were a barrier that didn't really allow me to be fully myself. Like, I wanted to experience what it's like to go with my friend to a church. I wanted that freedom. I wanted to explore that. I also wanted to explore my friend's Islamic culture, her Muslim culture. I wanted to explore everything. I wanted to be everywhere and do everything, at that time. And my family kind of did not really be very accepting of the fact that, you are now a part of like the Hindu culture. You should do things that pertain to the Hindu culture. There's no need for you to go into a church, or there's no need for you to go into a mosque. Or why are you listening to Arabic music? You're gonna become like a Muslim. Like, these things were kind of put on to me, and I started to really question, like, why? Like, I am not free to be everything that I want to be. I feel held back and I feel restricted, and I feel like I'm put into a box. And I didn't like that feeling. I wanted to come out of that feeling. I wanted to break out of that feeling. So I started to question it, right? And it wasn't only that, it was also yearning for my entire life that, being a female, you can't really sit down in prayer, and apparently you can't really pray to certain gods, or you can't really pray when you have your menstruation cycle. That for me was shocking. All of these things hit me. It felt like this is where it's going to end. Like, I'm not going to be carrying this forward any longer into my future, like children, or I'm not gonna carry these beliefs. They seem very skewed. They feel like they're coming from unconsciousness or some sort of misogyny that is being passed down in the bloodline, and it's now in the name of religion or customs. So I could see that a lot of these like customs and traditions were contaminated, oftentimes with unconsciousness and misinformation, and it was being passed down the line. And for me, I started to question that. And the moment I started to question that, it was actually a good thing, because it needed to be questioned. It needed to be met with a little bit more consciousness so that it can be changed. And that's when I realized that I needed to kind of like take a step back, because when you are in something, you can't really see it for what it is until you take a step back and you see it from a distance. Then you get to actually see what it actually is. And I got to understand that it was a lot of the customs and tradition that were oftentimes contaminated with a lot of unconsciousness, and it was passed down, and it wasn't questioned by some of my family members that were kind of practicing these things and just going about it, as if it's normal or okay. But it's not. These things, they don't morally make sense. Like, I know that for me, these things, they don't really fit into, and they don't align with myself. So that's when I realized that I needed to really take a step back from religion, and going through my spiritual awakening from like 22 years old. I really lean more towards spirituality, because at that time I needed a spiritual revelation, and a spiritual revelation happened in my life. So spirituality started to unfold within myself, and I started to become more spiritual, and now being a part of both religion and spirituality, I can definitely say that there's such a distinct difference. Religion really works on a lot of structure. There's a lot of these things that you need to do, a lot of things that you need to not do, right? It has a little bit of like rules and regulations to it. It has like a little bit of a set structure of tradition and customs that you need to follow through. A lot of like authority. You get your priests, you get your pastors, you get, it's a kind of like hierarchy based, right? And it's also like a lot of times you are listening to a lot of these priests and pastors. So it's really like external guidance that comes in when it comes to religion. Religion is more based on external guidance, where you getting your guidance from books, you're getting your guidance from scriptures, right? There's also a belief that God is an idol, or God is a person outside of yourself. So God is more external. So religion is more like from the outside in, right? Whereas spirituality is the opposite, which we'll get to in a moment. But religion is more like based upon the outside, much more than the inside. It's mostly based upon the belief that God is like outside of you. Therefore, there's like the separation that you and God, there's like a difference. Like God is authority, right? God holds power. As I said, it's very hierarchy based. So religion is very, very different. It has a sort of like set customs and traditions that you follow through. If you are a part of that religion, then you most likely will be practicing X, Y, and Z, right? So it's also very much like community based. So it brings people together, brings people together. If you are that religion and I'm that religion, it kind of feels like we are the same, right? So it brings people closer. And when people feel like they can be a part of a community, it makes them feel safe. It makes them feel more guided, more protected, and it stimulates the part of our brain that's in charge of our pleasure and reward centers. So it makes us feel really good that we are a part of a community, that we can belong. We can belong somewhere. A lot of safety is there within religion. Religion can give us a sense of safety because it can give us a sense of belonging and community. Spirituality is more free flowing. It's not very structured. It's not structured around dogmas or rules. There's no specific like tradition or customs that you have to follow. Uh, there's a little bit more of like freedom there, right? So you basically are in tune with your intuition. So guidance here with as we said, religion guidance is coming from external, but spirituality guidance oftentimes come from the internal, your inner world, which is called your intuition. It's very intuitive based. Everything becomes very intuitive. You know, intuition means guidance coming from within, inside of you. So it's all to do with your inner world. It's all to do with the world within yourself, right? Realizing that you are God. God is not seen as an entity or an idol outside of yourself. God is experienced as a realization that you are God, and everything and everyone comes from that same energy, and everything is one. There is no separation between you and another person, or you and even reality. Everything is coming from that same energy. Whether you want to call it God consciousness, awareness, or God, it's all the same thing. It's energy within yourself, a realization that you are that energy. And everything is a byproduct that's coming from that. So really, spirituality is truly very different from religion. It's based upon you are God, and you are responsible for everything on the outside, and everything on the outside is a reflection of your inner world. It's a byproduct of your inner world, right? As within, so without. As the world within, so the world without, you will create a path of enlightenment and God realization. And from that, you start to build your life on that. You start to build your life from that place of God realization, which is consciousness and awareness. You start to create a life out of that consciousness, and you start to create a life out of that awareness. So spirituality is more based upon the inner world, and an experience of the inner world, not really a belief, but more of an experience, a feeling. Spirituality is very personal. It's not really community based, even though there are many communities and stuff that are very welcoming to spiritual people, but not everybody walks the same path, right? Like religion is something that we are born into, right? It's something that we are taught. Spirituality is mostly something that we find due to personal experience. For me, it was trauma, but for other people, it might be for different reasons, right? Spirituality is a path that you find. Spirituality is not like a set path, like, okay, you need to do this and you need to do that, and there's nobody telling you what you need to do or what you have to do, right? You trust, you have faith, you take those steps, you listen to your intuition, you listen to your internal guidance, and you from that internal guidance you are guided to make some decisions in the world. We all have different reasons as to why we are walking our spiritual path, and no path is the same. No path is the same as another person's path. It might be similar, but it's nowhere near the same as somebody else's path. For me, I don't really believe that one is better than the other, that if you are more religious, then you are more superior than somebody who's spiritual, and if you are spiritual, then you're more superior than somebody who's religious. I do not believe in that. I think that we are now in a time and age where we need to believe in something, and it's important as human beings that we have something to give us faith. It's all about what makes you feel happy, what makes you feel joyful, what makes you feel aligned. That's more important than anything. It's just choosing something that resonates with you, that makes sense in your life, and instills within you faith and trust. And we all need that in our life. Thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you so much for receiving as always, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.